want to welcome here to Calabash TV, our neighbors, people who are pretty close to us in terms of physically. We're in the Census area, and ECCO is not far from us, and we want to welcome, Vanesta is our neighbor. You're familiar with us here?
Yes, I am.
And next to you is the Chief Executive Officer of ECCO, Davis Joseph. Welcome to Calabash TV.
Thank you.
And welcome to the neighborhood as well.
Thanks.
We want to talk, well, first of all, we want to start with Mr. Joseph in terms of introduction. First of all, give us an idea of what sparked your interest, first of all, in ECCO.
Well, I have been meeting or having conversations with songwriters, authors, creatives over a long period of time. And I think at some point I recall telling my brothers that I wonder why is it that I am meeting so many songwriters and creatives. Of what use or purpose is it going to be? I never actually imagined that landing the CEO job at ECCO would be the reason or the thing that ties all of this together. But it was. So when the opportunity came up, I decided that that would be a very exciting opportunity to be able to see and handle business. I like the idea of somewhere down the line in my future retiring as a consultant, and it would be nice to have a rich idea of how business operates in different sectors. And this is a wonderful opportunity for sure.
But you're not a creator yourself, you don't, right? I know your family, probably, your family's pretty steeped in that.
Well, I do write. I have so many songs that I have written.
Okay.
In fact, I have been to Bohington studio many years ago, writing, hoping to record a love song. I also did the same with T.C. Brown and also with Lebo. That was my last attempt. For some reason, and I think I explained that before, I never managed to complete the project. And now I have actually understood why. Now that I'm in the industry, I've understood why. And it is something that I'm hoping would not happen to anybody that I have the opportunity to advise. I also write poetry, and I'm into graphic arts, that sort of thing. So that's how I express myself creatively.
And you don't sing, you don't go on stage and perform?
Well, the thing is, we sang together as a group back in our church days. And but the thing is, I had to be told and reminded of my part so many times that it's a bit stressful. But I did enjoy it. I prefer, though, writing poetry and maybe writing songs at some later point where other people could sing.
All right, so certainly very good for that introduction, because I didn't know you were so deeply involved. And then now you mentioned your brothers. I know your brothers are involved. Jason Batchelor is involved, and your other brother, Webster, who is in Toastmasters, but is also very involved in the industry, supplying sound and lights and so on. So there is a pretty deep connection with the industry. And Vanessa, since we don't want you to feel left out, and talk to us about your writing and your poetry and everything else.
None of the above. I don't do any writing or poetry or anything of that sort. My interest in ECCO is really, well, it didn't start as an interest in ECCO. It's kind of different from Mr. Joseph. I actually was just looking for a job. And upon getting the job, I realized how interesting and how much there is behind what, well, I mean, knowing of IP, I never knew anything about that. So getting the job at ECCO really opened my mind, and I realized how much work is actually in the music industry and how much work it actually takes to have ECCO run as an organization. It is not as simple as it would appear to be. So it was a very interesting thing for me. That's why I kept I stayed with ECCO and educated myself more about IP and collective management and stuff like that.
You still have no interest in trying to write at least one poem? No. I'll just try my luck to see if I'll be lucky to try to get some.
You need to know your forte. That's not my forte.
Definitely. Now, Davis, I suppose I can call you Davis?
Yes, of course.
Vanessa was talking about she didn't realize until you get into it what exactly is involved and so on. And I'm sure now that you've been in for a little bit, you have a clearer picture of what's involved, and you did mention it a while ago in terms of the industry and so on. So when you came in, obviously you would have to have a plan. ECCO had gone through a transition and so on, but ECCO still had a lot of challenges being faced. What is your, how did you decide you were going to approach this?
Well, first of all, I had to do a little bit of studying. So I made sure I took a course with WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, just to get a solid foundation. I love learning. I think that must have come from my past life as a professor and certified trainer. So I wanted to know as much as possible on my own as to what the industry entails. But then the first thing that I would want to do in getting there is to find out from those on the ground, those who've been there, interview them, talk to them exactly what is going on. That is the only thing that you can catch up on the years that you've missed, etc. And I spent a lot of my time doing that with persons in St. Lucia and also to the regions that I traveled. So the first part was information gathering.
So what did you conclude after just your initial research?
Well, first of all, everybody's asking for a greater presence from ECCO. They also want ECCO to be a little more dynamic, a little more involved in their lives. So in other words, it's not just a matter of ECCO, a gap, and then royalties. In between, they want to actually feel part of a dynamic organization that's representative of where the music industry is going, etc. There is need for training. People would like to understand exactly how a collective management organization operates. They want to understand about copyright, and every time they do, there's this little glint in their eyes of having learned something new, etc. So there is a need for public relations. There is a need for educating the members and the general public. In addition to this, I think there's a lot more that we can do when in terms of providing representation for the members. If some of them are aware because of the fact that they're familiar with other collective societies, but these are the things we hope to put in place in the near future.
Yeah, when there's a State of the Union address, and Vanesta can probably jump in as well, we hear that the President announces that the State of the Union is strong, or they characterize it and so on. So in terms of ECCO, when you came in and so on, and like you say, members are interested in at least having a better understanding of their representation and so on, how would you describe ECCO's standing as a collective organization?
I saw it as an organization that had put in a lot of energy at the start. But somewhere along the line, there was certain calmness or a matter of focusing maybe on the status quo, what we should do. But around ECCO, the music industry had been changing. People were asking a bit more of their organizations, etc. So it seemed like it was just time for a reboot. As I have rephrased it, in other words, ECCO needs to be reimagined. Because also digital technology is something that is changing the way things are done. So it is really time now for us to focus, review everything we've done, how we've done it, and to ask ourselves, is that how we should continue doing it, etc., in order for us to remain relevant, in order for us to satisfy the needs of our members. So it's time for a reboot.
All right, so Vanesta, talk to us about your role at ECCO. What exactly, as operations manager, you're responsible for?
Well, my role is basically to ensure that the operations run as they should. So the restructuring of ECCO involved streamlining all the different variables that make ECCO work. So, for example, our mandate is distribution, collection of royalties, distribution. We have members, so the membership is also important. And licensing is what would drive any sort of distribution. So we saw it fit to have a membership officer, a licensing support officer, and an accounts and distribution officer. My role really is to ensure that they do whatever it is that they have to do to get everything how it should be done. So I'm not sure if I explained that right. But yeah, so my job is essentially to make sure that all the moving parts move correctly and with as little, how do I call it?
difficulty or challenges,
yes,
I guess.
with the minimal amount of difficulties and challenges, yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen, obviously, the change to the landscape as well in terms of how people consume music, how music is distributed, and so on, and basically with the digital economy and everything else. You've seen those changes, so how are you bracing to like the CEO said, to reposition and so on?
The CEO would more than likely be the better person to answer that question, simply because when you look at the digital landscape, it is something that we are tiny compared to what it would take to actually be able to manage a digital environment. So the CEO, well, Mr. Joseph, would be able to tell you exactly how it is that we may be looking at handling that aspect of things.
We are approaching that as a group. In other words, the CMOs of St. Lucia, Trinidad, Jamaica, Belize, Barbados, under the umbrella Access, we are looking at exactly that. So we are speaking with consultants at the moment. We are actually getting reviewing memorandums of understanding, and we are trying to see what would work best for us. It comes at a cost, of course. And the thing is, it is not, as Vanesta said, it is not something that any one of us can do, because we respect when it comes to looking at things globally. So we were hoping that soon we would have something to report to our members as to what direction we hope to take to be able to benefit from online licenses, and it is something that we hope to happen soon.
Obviously, and I think I think I saw some releases to that effect. In terms of one of the things that you'll have to deal with is convincing the commercial sector in terms of the need to be part of what you're doing in terms of registering and getting licensed for music and so on. And I know there are probably a couple of situations that probably you're dealing with. How active is that? Is the commercial sector understanding gradually, or is it still a major challenge for you?
I think it is still, and I'm not sure why, but the thing is, we still find ourselves pursuing them. So I think they do not necessarily see themselves as a part of the music industry. They see themselves as having to evade or sometimes avoid having to pay extra. But the thing is, if they were to see themselves as contributors to the music industry, where ECCO is doing its part, they're doing their part, I think it will be different, because then it would not be, in a sense, where we're on one side and they're on one side. I would like to make an appeal to them that we're all in this together, and the music industry is something that can be developed if all of us actually work towards it. It is just a matter of regard and respect for other people's property. So if it means having to sit with us and understand exactly where the money is going once it is collected, we are prepared to do that. Transparency, accountability, good governance, that's something that we definitely go for. So we're hoping that it would be a collaborative effort, as opposed to ECCO having to pursue engagement or funds from our music users. That's one of my priorities.
Is it still very active in terms of your legal department? There's still a lot of cases outstanding, or are you closing in on the numbers and so on?
Well, there are a number of cases outstanding, and because it refers to the past, Vanesta might be able to give us context as to how many in the past, and then I guess we can get into the future.
Yeah, because what I was trying to find out is basically if we have an increasing number of cases that ECCO has had to use more, go to the courts a lot more, or you find that number is starting to even out as people start to understand.
Yes, the number is actually evening out. We don't have that many cases outstanding. We also try to avoid having to go to court. That's why we always make ourselves available for anybody who doesn't understand. We take our time, we try to reach them in any way, form possible to get them to just understand, rather than use the strong arm of the law and go through the courts and all that. So the number is, yes, it's decreasing. We do not have many outstanding cases as compared to the past. So we're doing pretty okay with getting people to understand the need for the license.
Okay, so that's some good news for sure, because I think your members will be very concerned about, you know, the ongoing, especially if and some of the private sector organizations, they are from societies where communities or cities and states where it's very active, and they understand those rules pretty well. So sometimes it's a little mind-boggling that the environment changes the perception of the need to respect and protect their rights and so on. So you had a meeting fairly recently with your members. So Mr. CEO, how did that meeting go?
Well, the meeting, we were hoping, honestly, for more members, but we did get a good enough crowd. And those who were there were actually representative of the concerns of the others. It was a very dynamic, boisterous meeting, and we liked that because of the fact that we were actually getting input from our members as to what they think we should be doing, the directions that we should be going, etc. I think, and it reminded me that everybody is really doing what they're doing, saying what they're saying, because they're interested in seeing ECCO grow. Because at the end, we were all able to laugh, talk to each other, that sort of thing. We did something a little different this year, where we had some gifts. Yes. So for the first few people who entered, and we had a draw, and we were able to give a couples massage for two from Rendezvous Hotel, 2 bottles of wine from Peter and Company Distribution, and a dinner for 2 from Bay Gardens Hotel. So these are some of the things our members are asking for. They want, apart from our going about our obligations, to be able to enjoy being part of ECCO. And I definitely would like to do that.
What would be at the top of their priority? What is it that they want you to deal with some urgency?
Well, they want more royalties paid out to them. Yes. They would like to see more music users come on board. For them, it's sometimes a ticklish situation, because at times they may feel that trying to get more music users on board might actually land them in trouble or ostracize them, that sort of thing. But we are trying to encourage them that this is an effort they do not pursue alone, but rather as a group. It is their business, it is their organization, and they have the right to push it forward by making whatever requests that they want from the music users. We're hoping that eventually over time, and with education, as we've said before, that task will be a little easier for them. Because if we flood, so to speak, the environment with enough information, when either our agent has to go out or when they have to speak to someone, there would have already been some groundwork done, so the conversation will be a little easier. But they would like to see that happen. And we are telling them that ECCO is doing that, but ECCO needs to do that with their assistance too. Because we're so close, it might be somebody's cousin who is a music user, that sort of thing. So all we need to do is to realize that it's not just a matter of thinking, putting money in certain people's pockets, but developing an industry so well that anybody can decide, I want to earn a living from it, and I can earn my pension from it. When I'm no longer able to jump and dance on stage, I can still earn money.
Interesting point you bring about pensions. Is it something that ECCO can look at, is mandated to look at within your structure in terms of a pension for creators?
Well, there are social benefits that we can put in place, but when I referred to it as a pension, it was actually saying that once you invest your time in putting out good songs, etc., and the music users are paying, then you can relax later on and actually earn from your hard work. But in addition to this, we can look at other ways of supporting the members, not necessarily as in a pension, but being able to support them socially in cases where there's a need or something. So it is simply something that they have to agree to do, and it will happen.
All Vanessa, recently, I think you put out a press release talking about the 90% in terms of what we're exporting as a country. Um, how do you, and I think you did, I see a quote, you're saying that it wasn't really your mandate, your role, to be able to do that kind of representation. What you do is collect, basically, and to monitor, to police the rights and so on. But and from the meeting, I don't know if that came by the meeting in terms of the 90%. But what is it that can be done, or what is it that ECCO can do within your structure, your makeup, to see how best you can, even reduce that 90%?
We actually cannot reduce the 90%, unfortunately, because we represent members all over equally. So it is not just St. Lucia, it is not just St. Kitts, it's everybody from the US to Spain to wherever there is a CMO that we have a reciprocal agreement with. We represent everybody equally. And how the distribution is supposed to be done, it's supposed to be transparent and fair. So whatever the music usage is, that is what we have to distribute with. So there is nothing that we can actually do to reduce the 90%. The music users could consciously make a decision to play more of the local content. That would help. So when we do a distribution, whatever content is on there, as long as it's local, it would remain here. But we cannot actually do anything to interfere with, because the data we receive is what we have to distribute against. Whatever logs we have, that's what we have to distribute against. So we cannot interfere with whatever the percentage is. The writers, the creators, they could probably lobby government or something like that for greater music, local content, maybe legislate it or however they choose to deal with it. But ECCO cannot actually do anything about what the music consumption. So whatever is consumed, that's what we have to pay against. So we can't do anything about the 90%, unfortunately.
Okay, so that 90%, most of it goes to which country, which CMO?
Well, I would just group it to say the US.
Well.
Yeah, because there are actually 3 CMOs in the US, and then when you combine the 3, then you get, so most of it goes to the US. Then secondly, it would go to the UK. That would be second, and then everything else is menial. So it would stand to reason that we consume a lot of US content.
Also, I was interested in the Caribbean. So how much is it? Does it even register? How much goes to the Caribbean, Trinidad, Jamaica?
Well, in the region, our biggest export then would be Trinidad, and I think Trinidad would probably even be third on the list of the largest distributions going out. So it would be Trinidad, and then Jamaica, and then Barbados in the region. That's how it is currently.
So which one is the most lucrative for us? Or who pays us the most, or do we get anything at all?
We get. For us, the most lucrative is actually Trinidad.
Okay, so there's a reciprocal thing going on there.
There's a reciprocal thing there with Trinidad and St. Lucia. So our music is in Trinidad and Trinidad music is here. So it kind of balances itself off. But in terms of the US and the others, it's not very lucrative. We do get some royalties from it, but I would not call it lucrative.
Good. So that kind of lays out what the creators have to do themselves. I think you'll spell out some of them. They have to lobby and agitate for more airtime, and they have to be strategic as well in terms of if you look at the US market and we're not getting as much, then you focus public export, just like we export everything else, export our. So they have quite a lot of work to do, from what you're saying.
Yes, the work is actually on the owners of the creators. They would have to, music is a business, and they would have to start looking at it as a business. Just as if you have products and you want to export, you would have to do whatever market research that you need to do to get your product where you want it to be, so that you could maximize your profit. So they would have to also treat music as that. It is a business, and if you just rely on one market, that may not be the best thing to do for you. You need to see where the other avenues are. Again, there is online, there are other ways of trying to get as much out of your product as you possibly can.
All right, so Davis, I know the ECCO mandate was, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, was changed a little bit in terms of you representing writers and publishers, and it was changed a little bit to represent performers and producers. Is that correct?
Not yet.
Not
Oh,
as
it
yet.
is still a work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
Okay.
We have a few changes to make to go in with our bylaws. We have to, and our members have to actually agree that we can go in that direction, and we can make the changes to the bylaws to include performers and producers. So for now, we're still working on it, but we have not actually moved in that direction as yet.
And I suppose WTO rules would probably kind of restrict you from actively lobbying to have more local places since you represent everybody.
Yes, we have to be fair and equal. We cannot favor one member over another, so we cannot ask for any favors for our members, so to speak.
That regulation would come mostly from CSAC, the umbrella organization for all the CMOs internationally.
From the discussions, do members, I know they obviously want more money, more royalties and so on, but do you get a sense, because part of it is that they have to organize themselves, they have to basically do you get a feeling, the sense, and we keep talking about it, in and out, that we need to organize as a country, but you're getting the sense that they're starting to understand the economic implications, and that they're understanding now that we need to mobilize for the betterment of their own industry?
Well, from what I gathered, a few are, and some of those are influencers. So that's why I do plan to meet with them one-on-one in groups and to have more of an in-depth conversation with them to find out exactly how we could encourage that mobilization, etc. But definitely we are finding a few passionate people in each territory. So once we have the collective energies, then we can do something. But without their involvement, it is going to be a little difficult. But that understanding does exist. So the idea now is, how do we get other people to be as equally knowledgeable as the few? And because the more that grows, the easier the task would become. I will try to include some of my professorial past into educating and making it easy, so that it's like bite-sized consumption. So you can actually don't have to spend too much time reading something. But we do have plans to have access to learning and maybe short quizzes, and then have rewards, etc., so that they would be encouraged to complete a course and say, yes, I know a little bit more about copyright.
Is there a role too because I know, and I heard an interview this week with a performer, and he was talking about the challenges that he had not having management, because he was basically doing everything on his own, because you know how it is sometimes. Is there, because sometimes the artist may say, listen, I just want to focus on creation and just getting in studio to record and so on, and those other issues I wouldn't have time to deal with it. But is there a role now for artists and performers to realize that they need to have this relationship with people who can advance them if they want to focus on the art, to advance their interests? Is there something that you sense from the discussion that they understand, and that they probably will be thinking more of have management to represent them, to get a management team that better understands how the thing works?
Well, from everybody that I've spoken to, they're beginning to get that appreciation. So I think right now some of them are actually looking for that talent, whether it be booking agents, managers, etc. But they are beginning to realize that they need to be surrounded by the right people to be able to allow them to focus on their creations, and then the business side of it has to actually be managed by other people who also understand it well enough. So again, for the industry to develop, we need these people out there, and we need an organized approach to actually getting from, say, a local stage to an international stage, etc. It does take a lot for the industry itself, or somebody to be able to have a path that they can clearly see from point A to B, etc. But it would require those persons, those additional parties, to help an artist actually succeed.
So, Vanessa, I know the last meeting you did, like you said, get a quorum, so you did have a meeting. In terms of ongoing dialogue, and I think the CEO mentioned that he's going to be certainly having a lot more engagements. What is the general direction that you as operations managers, you're going to look at in terms of ensuring that there's a lot more, because we know how it is, people don't want to get involved, but they want all the benefits. But how do you plan to get them more interested in what's going on with ECCO and their own development?
Well, that would be where the the implementation of a membership officer would come in.
So that officer is on board already?
Yes,
okay.
That's Keen Quarter.
Okay.
What he would also be responsible for would be to liaise with the members on a regular basis, not just for meetings or anything, but just to assist in whichever way possible. So with registrations, when there's a new song, with that, what do you do? That he would help you. If you need advice, even, you could come to the office. The office is always open to our membership for whatever it is that they need. So that is what that officer would actually help with the creation of a better relationship between ECCO and its members, in order to facilitate whatever it is that Mr. Joseph and ECCO is working towards in getting our members more educated, more involved, and all that sort.
And he's been doing a great job, I might add, because if he finds anybody who has more than the usual interest in registering, etc., he just directs them right to my office, so that we could have a more in-depth discussion.
I was about to ask you now, we're wrapping up now. You've been in this for a few months, is it?
About 3 months. I should be able to tell you the exact days: 92 days, 4 hours and 2 minutes, but not quite.
Yeah, that's all right. So you're not having any regrets so far. You're settling in quite comfortably. You're in for the long haul.
All. It is taking every aspect of my career, my training, etc., because it's very involved. So I get to use all those talents I have cultivated in the past. And like I said, I have to get to know a little bit more about it so I can make a greater contribution. But it is nothing to regret. It's a good place to be.
And is it generally the same across the region when you travel to your members overseas? It's in the Eastern Caribbean. Are you getting the very same from members, the same interests, the same concerns?
Yes, I think they all read the same memo. Yes, because the
passion
and energy. Yeah, and that is what is so interesting. I have never met a set of people who are so passionate about something, and you can see it in what they do, the way they ask the questions, the fact they will not let certain things go, etc. So that is really deeply ingrained inside them. So it's up to us to convert that emotion to actual action, but it's the same everywhere.
All right. And well, we did say off camera that we still want to have an ongoing dialogue with you. Considering the fact that we're neighbors, we're just a few minutes away, well, a few seconds away from each other. So we certainly hope to have ongoing dialogue with you, because we want to look at, and one of the things we want to focus this year is economic independence, and I think through the arts as well, we certainly need to look at, and I'm happy that you mentioned about the passion can be converted into a business approach to things, because you can have passion, and if you have a business approach, then, passion rhymes it goes with poverty in a sense. You say you don't want to be passionate and poor, but you at least want to be prosperous and so on. So Vanessa, certainly good to see you, and also Mr. CEO, good to see you as well, and we hope that we have an ongoing dialogue. Any wrap-up comments from you, starting with you, Vanessa?
I would like to thank the members who actually turned up for the meeting, and we are also preparing for our AGM. I would like to invite everybody. I mean, it's a little early, but the date is the 16th of March. It will be at the CSA, so I'm just putting it out there for now. And we look forward to meeting with our members. We want them to actually tell us what it is that they would like to see us doing for them in the future. So that's it from me.
And Davis?
Well, for me, I guess the association is with our 40th independence. I think whether it be for male or female, it marks a point of maturity. So I'm hoping for the country, the people, the music users, that maturity would be something that we would look forward to. Because the thing is, when you have reached that point, then you no longer have to be told exactly what to do every time and why. You'd have had a deeper appreciation as to why it should be done, and on your own you would want to do it. So this is the appeal that we are making to our music users, that maybe this is the time where we reflect deeply as to what this means for another industry that could be developed to a point where it benefits all of us. And we're hoping that for the cooperation and collaboration as we move forward and provide our members with what they want, which is greater royalties.
All right, so that's Mr. Davis Joseph, who is the Chief Executive Officer of ECCO. and Vanesta Mortley, who is the operations manager. Certainly good to speak with both of you, and we look forward to certainly having ongoing dialogue with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us.